We are Mucus-free. We are Mucus. We are Mucus-free. We are Mucus-free. We are Mucus-free.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. Welcome to the 7th episode of the Mucus-free Life podcast. You're listening to myself and Brother Ehret playing at the 2019 ComFest Fire Music Project. There's a little remix in there. I threw in a little Mucus-free, We Are Mucus-free in there for fun. But I'm really happy that you're here. We have a wonderful show for you in a little bit. We have a great guest. I'm going to bring out Miss Dylan Cag, and she will be one of the speakers at the Ehret Day celebration, which is going to be July 27th and 28th in Columbus, Ohio at the Whetstone Park of Roses. On Saturday, we'll be in the Shelter House, and on Thursday, we will be in the park, so somewhere. But I wanted to show you real quick, get your tickets right now because time is coming down, and you want to get these tickets while I still have the early bird pricing going on, so you can take advantage of that. Check out the link below. You can go and, I've talked about all this before. I got some transportation information and all that good stuff that I put on here so that you can know where you're going, and some stores and eateries, and we have a little vegan restaurant and a couple things around here. So really excited. One thing I wanted to show you. So this is early on. We're still tweaking the schedule, but right about now, what we're looking at is I give my presentation, sharing Ehret's message with the world, to Cora Tafari, Mucus-free childcare, Brother Ehret, the art of living the mucusless diet. Then we have Johnny Gonzalez, health, movement, and vitality on the mucusless diet. Then Dylan Cag, Earthships, sustainable living, and our vision of an Ehret village. Then we're going to have a panel Q&A, panel discussion Q&A with all the featured speakers. Then Michael Adam Fathauer, who we had on the show last week, will be doing a quick mucus-free food prep demonstration, and he is the chief chef for the event and helping put all of the food together that will be a part of the mucus-free Ehret Day celebration. And then we have the supper and socializing with John and Vibe Man Davis. Going to be doing a little playing during that period. Then we have performance of Professor Spira, Brother Ehret, and the Fire Music Project, which will be rounding out the evening on Saturday. Then on Sunday, we're calling that Do What the Spirits Say Do. And it's kind of a free-form day where folks can spend time with me and Brother Ehret, Takora, other mucus-free community members in an informal kind of setting and situation. And there's other activities that we can do. As a consensus, as a group, we decide, hey, let's go on a nature walk. Let's make some music. Let's do yoga. Different people talk about different topics they might want to talk about. One thing I've always wanted to do is maybe visit a local store. There's a couple stores close by. We could take a field trip to the store, and we could go through the produce section and kind of show how brother, because I learned a lot from Brother Ehret when he took me to the supermarket, and just the way that he looked at things, just the way that he walked through the supermarket, inspect fruit. I just learned a lot just observing that. So I think that's something that other folks might benefit from as well, just hanging out in the supermarket and talking, looking at labels, just that kind of stuff. There's a lot to be learned I think, going through that process. So we'll see. That might happen, might not. It is a free form day, but we have that time set aside so that we can have some more informal kind of discussions and hanging out, because as you can see, Saturday is pretty filled up. We'll still be talking and that kind of thing, but it's going to be a lot of just making sure we deal with the agenda and everything, but we want to definitely have time to just hang out, just have conversations, get to know everybody. And so Sunday is serving as that day. So hope that you can come. Just right now, like I said, we still got the early bird tickets happening. Go on ahead and hook that up. Just get your ticket right now, get your travel plans in order, and come on down, because you do not want to miss this celebration. This is going to be beautiful.
In a world where people needlessly die of preventable illnesses, one man's vision offers hope to humankind. Order Professor Arnold Ehret's annotated, revised, and edited Mucusless Diet Healing System today.
Simplistic. That's simple, man.
Right,
Get a little sun, breathe a little air.
Right.
That's as free as you can get.
Get down tonight. That's a
Get a little sun, breathe a little air.
Get down tonight. Get down tonight. Get a little sun.
Get a little sun.
Breathe a little air. Get down tonight.
It doesn't get no better than that.
Right. Welcome back to the Mucus-free Life podcast, and I am very excited to have a wonderful, wonderful guest. I'd like to introduce you to Dylan Cag, who is a experienced Earthship Biotecture engineer, world-class face and body painting artist, freelance visual artist and designer, yoga instructor, former associate professor at Grenfell Campus, Memorial University, and practitioner of the Mucusless Diet. She attended the Earthship Biotecture Academy and received training from the architectural innovator and visionary Michael Reynolds. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Dylan Cag. What is going on?
Hi. Nice to see you.
Yes.
Thank
Yes. And it looks pretty out there where you are. It looks like the weather is doing a good job today.
Stunning, gorgeous. Halifax is not letting me down.
Yeah.
I'm new to this place, and I'm really enjoying the weather, I have to say.
Okay. And so you're so Halifax in Canada, and now where are you originally from?
From an island the size of France, way off the coast of Canada, out in the middle of the North Atlantic. It's called Newfoundland. It's basically a rock. It's like 500,000 people on the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild out there. It's rugged, it's raw, it's phenomenal. I love it.
Okay. Yeah. So we are very excited to have you coming to Ehret Day celebration. Remind everybody, Ehret Day is July 27th and 28th here in Columbus, Ohio, at the Whetstone Park of Roses. Saturday will be in the Shelter House, and then on Sunday we're calling that Do What the Spirits Say Do, where we'll probably meet at the Whetstone Park of Roses, but there'll be kind of a community consensus as to everything that we do. If people want to sit and talk with me and Brother Air informally, we can do that. If we want to go on a nature hike, we can do that. If we want to go to a store, and I've always kind of wanted to do that, take a group of people to a store and just walk around in the produce section and show people how I select fruit and stuff. We can do that, so it'll just be one of those kind of free form days. But on Saturday, Dylan is going to be doing a presentation on Earthship Biotecture and talk a little bit about our vision for an Ehret village. So Tell us just a little bit about your experience. What got you into being interested in biotecture, and maybe tell people what that is, because that's a new word. A lot of people don't know what that, never heard that. So yeah, how'd you get into that?
Wow. Got a lifetime? Yeah. That was a huge evolution of when I really, really thought about all of the things that I was capable of doing, and all the things that really lit me up, made me excited to get out of bed in the morning, full of purpose. I kept picturing myself full of mud and creating these giant sculptures of colored light out of these glass bottled walls. It's beautiful, beautiful walls.
Yeah.
That's how I discovered Earthships. Was I saw this image online of these glass bottle walls.
Yeah.
And I got sucked in and I started learning all about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been into health and wellness for my whole life. I've been into architecture my whole life, design, art, all of these things. I've been into sharing experiences with other people. I'm very group orientated. I like working with teams. And I've always wanted to create a community that would help share health and wellness and explore what humanity was really capable of. And, this seemed like the perfect, at the time, the perfect solution, architecturally speaking. I mean, just having done the academy and everything, I can say they work. They really work.
Yeah.
Biotecture is just a term that Michael Reynolds came up with. See, they actually took his architectural degree away from him.
Oh, man.
And he didn't really care, because he's just like, I'm going to do stuff that makes sense. If you guys are going to take, forever to catch up with me, that's, I mean, a lot of the codes that are out there are, how can I say this? They're keeping us sick rather than keeping us safe. And so he kept doing what he was doing the safest he could, and trying to prove that. And a lot of people from around the world came to experience what he does. And biotecture, unlike architecture, is inclusive of life. This kind of architecture lives and breathes and moves with you and with everything around it. It's integrative. It's not separate from you or your body or your health.
Yeah,
that's biotecture.
That's beautiful. And what folks was looking at real briefly, I did a few pictures, just a quick search of Earthships, and showed just a couple pictures of some Earthships. And when I first learned about them years ago, it just made sense to me immediately when I just saw some in the early days of YouTube. I think it's something passed by, or an article or something, and it explained what it was. It was the use of natural resources to make these structures that are even stronger than the things that we make now normally, and everything is off the grid, self-sustaining, that kind of thing. And I was like, what? That's what I'm talking about. That makes sense. There's a lot of people, they're dreaming of I want a mansion, I want this, and I want, I'm like, man, I want an Earthship. That's what that's what I want. That makes all the sense in the world to me. There was, before Earthship, I used to go to a Crohn's conservatory, a plant conservatory, and they had these. It was just always warm in there, and it was nice. I was just like, man, I could live in this. And then when Earthships came, I was like, oh, well, that's like, yeah, that's kind of the actual version that's even better to live in. And so we won't talk too much about the Earthships today, because you're going to be talking a lot about that at the Ehret Day, as well as like some of the visions and the plans, as I mentioned there. But so, and how long did you study with Michael and his crew?
specifically, the academy started in September, a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was there doing an intensive with them for a month.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would spend 1 day in classroom, 1 day on sites. And those sites would be varied depending on what was on the go. And I was in Taos, New Mexico. So I got to see things that were happening current, but I also got to see and live and visit things that have been evolving for 40 years. Very informative. Highly recommend doing the academy in Taos, New Mexico, but wherever you can.
Right.
And I don't know if I impressed some people or what, but I got offered a dream job. I couldn't believe it. Michael's right-hand man convinced me it was a great idea to, all by myself now, do an incredible glass wall, because I've been studying with the bottle whisperer, Heather, there, much as I could, at a great location, which meant a lot to me. There's a couple of Kundalini yoga teachers in the area, they're masters, and they had an Earthship that they were expanding. And so I got asked to create the bottle wall that's right in the middle when you enter. That was my next project with them.
Yeah.
And it took me in through October into November, and then I had to pack up and leave because I was doing my field studies in Indonesia on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to basically head that whole area of bottle walls for that first wave into Indonesia, which was a really special project because Earthships had been hoping to have a location for a long time where they could really exhibit what was possible start to finish. This was a whole island dedicated to just building Earthships and living in Earthships. So from start to finish, it was quite an honor. So I did all that, and it was a wild ride. That's September through into December. Specifically, it was incredible.
Yeah.
It was, I can't believe it sometimes when I think about it. I mean, I camped most of the time, although I stayed in the castle when I was there for my first month. So yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah. Wow, yeah, because I think I came across a old GoFundMe page where you were raising money for the tuition and getting it going, and you had the videos where you're like, this is my dream, I'm doing this, and I need your support. I was like, oh, that's cool, and so that's really, I mean, that's just a whole next level. People don't even understand. It's just because I mean, a lot of people still don't even know what Earthship is yet, and then if they do, they don't necessarily connect it to a vision of a real future, of sustainable living. And when combined with the Mucusless diet, that's the direction, as far as I'm concerned. That's the direction that society needs to go in, because it makes sense. We don't need to go, if you want to go back to the woods and do some kind of a primitive life, you can do that now. You can do that now and just try to live off the land, all that kind of stuff. But like I said in another video, I'm not anti-technology. I think we can use technology in a way to transition humanity back to a more natural kind of situation, a more natural life. And so I think it makes sense. It makes sense that humans, if we build something, if you go up far enough away, it should look cool, because the ants build stuff and that looks cool, and bees build things and that looks cool. Our stuff should not look like cancer. Like these, when you go in the Google map and you look at what the city, our city looks like, it's not cool looking. It's like this big old tumor on the earth, and so we should be making cool things that don't hurt the earth. And so, so I'm excited about getting deeper into that. Now, tell me a little bit about your professor of what were you teaching at the college?
Yeah, that was incredible. So I went to this phenomenal school. I was accepted into a place called the National Theatre School of Canada. They're based out of Montreal, Quebec. They're one of the top 3 schools in the world for design for theater, film, and television. I got wrangled into working on some sets when I was in high school, thinking I was going to go and be an artist in my studio, but I wasn't really enjoying being alone all the time. And when I got on these sets, hanging out with these folks, making all this big magical stuff happen.
Yeah.
Like there was no limit as far as I could tell back then. I know better now, but there was no limit. That was the biggest thing I'd ever worked on. And whatever we made came from our imaginations, but one thing would be made to look like something else. So there's magic involved, kind of trickery, foolery involved. There's a lot of play involved behind the scenes in theater, film, and television. And I really enjoyed the collaborative nature of working with people, because that's it, man. We inspire each other when we get going, when we're talented and when we're excited and passionate. Like it gets explosive in a room sometimes.
Yeah.
So I got accepted to that school. I graduated. I was one of only 8 people in my class attending, and we all graduated, but it was tough.
Yeah.
And I had worked with some people back in Newfoundland at the university who were impressed with me, even at an early age when I was still in school. And I'd been out of school a couple of years working in that career, and they invited me to be basically guest instructor for the year while the main normal costume / set designer was away on sabbatical.
Yeah.
That was amazing. I mean, I was in my mid-20s.
Yeah.
Some of the students were older than me. So it took a while to kind of establish.
Yeah, well, I can relate to you there. I know what that's about.
That's it, man. When you know what you're talking about, people know you know what you're talking about. And,
right.
And it was really wild and fun. We had a great time doing all kinds of shows together, me and the students and the staff, and it was a fantastic gig. I really enjoyed it. It was tough though too. I've always been a really kind of I like to do really good work. I like to do really, really good work. Yeah. And so that's part of what I've been working on later in life, is how to balance that almost obsessive compulsiveness.
Right.
How can I use that? How can I funnel that instead of it letting it ride me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was an amazing job.
Yeah. That's
It's coast of Canada next to Marble Mountain, one of the most beautiful ski resorts ever. It's really, yeah.
So were you working on movies and shows that we would know about, or that got out there, or is there stuff in Canada, or are you not allowed to talk about it? Is it, you sign a contract where it's no disclosure?
Too much into the resume, because I find it triggers my ego a lot to really be like, well, I did this and I know this person and no, right? But let's just say what I found interesting about the career was that the higher up I got, this isn't across the board for absolutely every person I met. There's always going to be amazing people no matter where you go, right? But the higher up I got, the more my surroundings became incredibly suffocating, and the more unhealthy my life got. Nobody seemed to really be happy. Everybody was working 16 and 18-hour days.
Yeah.
Nobody had the emotional or mental intelligence to really understand how or why they got into that situation or what they were still doing. And so I'm all about art, and I'm all about expression. I mean, obviously, but it's
right.
I had to leave. I was not healthy. And I'm really glad I did. I mean, I'll always be a part of that world.
Right.
But I'm really glad I left. I went on a big adventure.
Yeah.
I basically said, okay, all of the time and energy that I put into a show, which it's amazing how much energy one person could put into something when they really put their mind into it. But if I put all of that time and energy into me instead of something outside of me, if I become my author of my show, then what could happen? And it just got really excited with that idea. And everything changed. I mean, it took a while to I kept getting stuck back in for financial reasons, but eventually the break finally happened. and I stopped associating myself as a designer for film, theater, and television. I stopped introducing myself as that. I stopped making my whole life about that, and I began to just really discover what else there is and what I am really, truly. And it was painful. It was like a death, actually. But
yeah,
you know, the phoenix, right?
Right. Well, and that's the kind of stuff that me and Brother Ehret listen for. We're talking to people to see how serious they are about whatever it is they're into in the life, because that tends to be what mucusless diet practitioners go through, or folks that go down the health path, but oftentimes artists also, just as well. It's that type of attitude. Are you going to do what you want to do, or are you going to let the markets and the culture and all these other things dictate to you what you do? And sometimes you have really tough decisions to make, and it's in the hardcore. In the the vernacular here in the States, we would say, the real. I can't. That's a cuss word. I won't say that. But the real folks, that's the people that's gonna make that type of decision of saying, okay, I like, this is cool, but I'm going down this road. This is more in essence with who I am and what I want to accomplish. And
it's really nice when one can make that decision consciously. A lot of us are forced into it because of health reasons. Just our lives fall apart, either physically in obvious ways, or maybe mentally or emotionally, because we haven't been taught how to. There just isn't a lot of mental or emotional intelligence in our current culture, I think, by design. So we get stuck in these patterns, or what I would call programs, and we're all operating out of these programs and reacting instead of actually being authentic, actually even what that word really means. Right.
Yeah, most definitely.
Just compassion for everyone, basically, because I know I was there.
yeah. So that's real interesting. And when you were doing the design, were you making the actual, like, the blueprints, the design for different things, or building stuff, or just, or all of the above, all that stuff?
Yeah, I'm one of these weird people. I don't like specializing because I really enjoy and love so many different things. So as an artist, I never specialized in just painting or just drawing or just sculpture. And then that's one of the reasons I got into film, theater, and television, because I like to make the sets, and I like to draft, and I like to, be in the fitting rooms with the costumes. And there was no end to me. Although we use words to try to identify things so that we can have conversations with them, when I use a phrase like the art of life, it helps remind me that there's no end or beginning to anything. So, for example, as a face and body painter, sure, there's the skin that I'm working on, but that's attached to an actual human being, like a real live human being with all kinds of stuff going on. What an honor to be allowed that close to a person. And then maybe what I see or what I would want to create doesn't end with the skin. Maybe I want to introduce costume elements. Also, maybe the way that I'm presenting and creating this is part of the art. Maybe the way I'm interacting with this person is a form in itself as well. Just how gracefully can I do what I'm doing while I'm doing it? And it goes on from there. I mean, the art of life is there's not how we just interact with each other, and not just different artistic mediums, but focusing on the inner art, the art of just being, right.
And well, that's a good segue to your, would you call it a company or your organization, your brand, or I already know you don't like any of that type of, that's way too mainstream and like corporate sounding.
I struggle with that. I definitely struggle with that. The whole, marketing is a fascinating world, and I love finding the right words.
Yeah.
The power of it. Words are so powerful. Images. studied so much of that stuff. So I kind of get to these places where I'm able to find an expression like the art of life and use that to help market, if you will, a concept or an idea that I think is important to me.
Right.
When does it become marketing? Maybe when I start selling it. But what I do in life, ever since I had a really interesting experience where I had a business stolen, I had more than a business stolen, I had a lot stolen from me. This victim mentality. And so what I discovered was that perhaps maybe this is just an experiment, but maybe I don't really own anything, even if a piece of paper says I do. And I started to operate financially differently. I started to busk in all areas.
Yeah.
So if I find people find me when they need to, and they find me in whatever capacity they need to. So it could be face and body painting, or it could be yoga, for example. And then depending on what their resources are like, and depending on what my resources are like, you know, either we're meant to work together or not. And some people can be really generous, which is wonderful. That helps create some space and some time so that I can be generous with other people who, like me at some point in their life, didn't have a lot financially, had a lot of other things to give. And I am always learning from the people that I work with, all of the kids I work with. It doesn't matter how old they are.
Yeah. So let's show the folks some of the stuff you got going on. So this is your Facebook page, The Art of Life, Face and Body Painting with Dylan Cag. And I love all of these pictures that you put up of the work that you've done. And let me see here. Let me get back to. So there's got the tiger. Oh wait, I didn't notice it. So there's a little picture back there. Do you have sort of things that you've kind of worked out, and they choose which one they want?
I find sometimes it's really helpful. I don't always like to do that, but sometimes it's really helpful. I learned in school a long time ago that when I say the color red, not everybody thinks of the same color red.
Right.
And so a picture can say 1,000 words really quickly. So sometimes I'll just put pictures out that I feel like maybe working on, but I have a little sign that's, think of all of these as inspiration. So sometimes I find it so funny. Somebody will be interested in an image, and I ask them why, and they go, "Oh, well, I like the blue lips," and I'm like, "Oh, but we can put blue lips on anything."
Right.
So we jam together, and I often, one of the most important things I do with the kids especially is I like to get them connected to themselves and what they want, and not necessarily what the parents want. So one of my tricks is to ask them what their favorite color is, right? Look at the table. And then I will often incorporate that color into the image, because I do believe that color is just as powerful as anything else, like sound. It's a vibration, and it can heal. And there's a reason we're attracted to certain sounds and certain colors, and my understanding so far. So I think that it can be a very healing art form. A friend of mine who's actually you could call him a kind of a shaman or a native artist. He does something called the healing brush, where we actually go in with certain colors and touch on certain areas, like acupressure points. It's a whole like healing session, and it's divine. Feels amazing.
October 31st. You could tell the Halloween season.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's like, I mean, all of these are so much fun. I mean, like a musician too, who's playing songs. Sometimes I'll do covers, and sometimes I'll be doing my own work. And it's just, there's no end to the possibilities. If I have enough time with someone, I can do anything.
Yeah, these are gorgeous.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, and I love the faces of the kids. They're just like,
the reactions, capturing the reactions, having time to take a picture after I've done a face painting. That is really nice. That's a treat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real treat. This one, I haven't posted yet. There's so much stuff I haven't posted. I've been trying to put a few more things up more recently on Instagram, but again, I'm sort of more involved in doing than promoting.
Yeah, and I know so I'll tell you the way that I look at marketing, because I've evolved as well, in that, because I've kind of years ago, I mean, since I was a child, I was kind of interested in sales and salesmanship and business owning and all this kind of stuff. Then when I got into music, I kind of thought that I was just going to leave all that stuff behind and just become this artist and just whatever happens, and I just work on my art and practice and that kind of thing. But then, universe came and said, no, there's a reason that you have some of this business stuff and some of the sales stuff, so you got to use that too. And so, but the way I look at marketing, I kind of look at marketing in the same way that I look at educating in it's different mediums. Totally, it is different, but the principle of articulating an idea and implanting an idea, it's like there's a pedagogy to it. You can create, kind of a curriculum just based on the marketing. And so that's the way that I look at it. Is it's just another medium, is another artistic medium that can be used to express things, to get information across, and so that kind of took that element out of it that some artists kind of reject or push against, where it's like, oh no, I'm not, I don't want to dirty up my art with all of this. It's like, well, no, it's part. There's a time and a place, so there is a time to sort of shut everything out and just focus in. But I think when the time is right to share with the world, that is also an art. How do you put whatever it is out there, and it also helps to develop you as a person, and an artist, because you do open yourself up for criticism. You get the positive and you get the negative. You get it all, and so it's sort of it's almost like being a public artist as opposed to kind of like a private artist. Because I did that with my music for a while, where I didn't want any. I mean, I got so much stuff in the vault of things that I've recorded that I've never put out. That's just was stuff that I made for me or as part of working, but it doesn't have the level that I want to share with the world yet. And so, but I've also learned that can be a trap too, because that perfectionism, then you end up not putting anything out. And so, so that's a balance to try.
That is a balance, and that is one of the reasons why I find the face painting so helpful, because I can't hide it away if I don't like it. I have one shot with this person, and they will likely remember this for the rest of their lives, because I do. I remember when I was being face painted. Right. So I think of it that way. I'm like, I have 5 minutes maybe with this person, and they're going to remember it for the rest of their life. And that's a lot to put on my shoulders. Yeah. But hey, when I forget about Dylan and trying to impress people, and I actually just do say, like, for example, that trick I mentioned, when I get out of my head and into my heart, instant access, I'm connected. The person in front of me is connected. And then we go. Right. And there's no more time for thinking about it or questioning it, and I just see what happens. And usually I've gotten pretty good. Like, it's been a long time I've been face painting on and off since I was a little kid. Yeah. I am still improving. I can't wait to see what I'll be doing like 5 years from now. Yeah. It's wild. Like,
now, how long would it take for you to do this? How long did this take for this particular?
That's a pretty quick one. I'd say 5 minutes, maybe 7.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. All those little tiny dots. Yeah, that's not too bad. That one's not too bad. Some of them take a lot longer. Oh, that's like 3 minutes. More it's just squiggling around and getting stay still long enough to get the brush on there for that. That's one of my tricks.
Oh, I see. And on the hand, a little flower on the hand.
Yeah, when they're that young. It's nice to do it on the hand, because they don't really like when they look in the mirror, they'll then turn the mirror around and show the mirror to you because I think the image is still in the mirror.
Oh,
they don't
wow.
really
Yeah,
quite
yeah.
understand yet.
Yeah.
Oh, they forget it's on their face, and when they see it on their hand, they're like, "Oh, nice,
Right.
I'm a flower."
Oh, yeah.
Or it helps me judge how comfortable they are.
Yeah.
And you kind of sneak in there nice and slowly, as opposed to getting right in the face,
Right.
which can be very invasive for some people.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, little Spider-Man.
Oh, that's funny.
Rubbing
She was
off
cute.
camera.
That's just something really simple,
Uh-huh.
right? That's like 30 seconds plus, not even. She loved
Little
that one.
reindeer
She
with the
loved
Christmas.
it.
So now, does this one take a little longer?
Yeah, that I need time for. That is probably about 15, maybe at 20. It depends on the person. Because some people are more gentle in the chair, more chill, and some like to squiggle around.
Right.
She was fantastic. She was excellent. Her only request was just to not get too close to the eyes, which was a fantastic choice because it really suits her to have all that lightness around the eyes while it's dark everywhere else. But I love it, finding the right brush to be able to do all of those strokes. It's taken a long time. And, is the paint wet versus dry? All of these things. And how long it needs to be on the sponge before it gets to the skin, before it gets too dry and I can't get it on there anymore.
Right.
Like, there's so many aspects to it.
And for the large, is that all painted, or do you have one of those things that sort of shoot the paint out for the larger area?
An airbrush is an amazing tool. I adore using airbrushes. But usually right now, my kit, although I brought my airbrush with me here to Halifax, I haven't used it. I usually just sponge a base. So that orange in the background is sponged on and the white is sponged on.
Okay.
And go in and use particular brushes of different shapes and sizes to achieve different effects.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, airbrush. That's what that's called. Is it the thingy that
yeah. There's a body painting I did that's up on that site there called Super World, and that's all airbrushed.
Super World?
Yeah, I had to
is that
and create the concept and then go in and create the stencils and all kinds of stuff. It should be on there, although I'm not seeing it right now.
Is it in an album or?
Yeah, it should be an album, but
Oh, this looks intense. This is the
Oh
bottom.
yeah,
Oh, this
that
is
first person there, that boy costume. Actually, my father. He won the contest, and he is just adorable. He's such a character, and he did not realize that it would be like a full day of makeup and costume. Right? And it was fantastic.
Yeah. Wow.
It's I mean, it's still like not a full like what I would call film costume, right? I mean,
right.
Obviously, but it's still quite a lot went into that.
Wow. Yeah, these are great. Now, when's your next? So how often do you busk, and when's your next appearance?
Very relative to what's going on in life. I mean, for example, that time I was doing the training and working with Earthships, I didn't go near it. And that was probably 4 or 5 months. And if I'm really into teaching yoga for a while, I might put it down for a little while. And then I just kind of get these spurts. Like I really felt like I really wanted to paint a lot when I moved here to Halifax a little while ago. And focused on painting almost every day now since I've arrived, and that's a real treat. So I'll busk any day I really feel like it. If the weather's good or I have a really amazing, so great. There's this place here called the Seaport Market. Seaport Market. I really enjoy markets because there's a community of vendors and a community of people who are interested in healthy living usually.
Right.
And so I get to meet the people of Halifax and what they're up to and see what's going on, right, on that level.
Right.
And make friends. So I always have a place indoors, which is great. Yeah. So that's how often I'm up to it. It could be a couple of years I don't touch it. Like when my business got stolen, I couldn't even look at my paint without I couldn't even look at it. It amazes me that I can have so much joy for something one moment, and then the same thing, or say the same person, I can be completely repulsed by.
Yeah.
Like what changed? Huh. It's all internal, right?
Yeah.
External never changed. It was internal.
Right.
So that whole experience has just been actually an incredible blessing, a real juice for my unfolding. I have to say, I don't recommend anybody go get their business stolen. But
now, wait, I mean, can you explain what that means? Or what, I don't want to dig up old wounds and stuff, but that's interesting. What do you mean when it was stolen?
We're just talking about marketing, and I wanted an agent. I didn't want to spend all of my time marketing. I know how much work it is. It's an incredible amount of time and energy and work. And I knew there were people out there who love to do it.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, I just want to focus on face and body painting now for a while. I know I can be like world class, and I want to go to international competitions, and I want to do this. So somebody magically appeared, right? Who seemed to fill the traits. But some people present themselves one way when really there's something completely different. And I go for it. It happens to all kinds of people all the time. And then when it seemed to me that they weren't what they promised to be, I thought that all they really needed was just real love, real support. Maybe they never had that in their whole life. And so I thought that my love could fix them. And they, so anything that was going wrong behind the scenes, I never let anybody know about. I'm like, I got your back, babe. We're gonna make this happen. No worry. And it was just a complete shock to them when some people see that they didn't understand why I was staying. They thought it was for financial reasons or for business reasons, but they didn't realize it was love. And so when I changed my mind because I was not healthy anymore, they were really surprised about it. So it's really interesting how I don't really think our job is to save people, or that we can save people. It became the first real lesson for me in looking after myself first. It sounds so the opposite of what most people in my generation have been taught to do. I mean, that word selfish comes up over and over again. And I'm learning to take care of myself and put myself and my needs above others was one of the hardest things I ever had to learn.
Wow.
And time again, man. That's, like I said, I wouldn't wish anybody get their business stolen.
Right.
But I learned such a valuable lesson, and I've been nothing but blessed ever since I left. So wow, hey. Some of our pain can really turn like alchemy into gold. Yeah. We do the work that's involved to discover what's behind it all.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's a common theme that you see in a lot of different areas when people develop later in life, develop something that might have been troublesome earlier in life. And the one example I'm thinking of, there's a lot of professional fighters and like MMA fighters and stuff that they were picked on when they were kids, they were like beat up and bullied, and so they went and learned how to fight, and then they became the best fighters in the world, and then I mean, even in my case, I was it was hard for me to learn how to read, and I'm just that pain of trying to, of everybody around me kind of seeming like they're able to catch on a lot quicker than me, and that they're able to read, and I'm like struggling just because it was too early for me. I just kind of different type of timeline that didn't fit into the grade system that I was put into, and so later in life, that's one of the things I really loved about the Mucusless diet, because that was like getting rid of all that obstruction made it so much easier to study, and then I was able to learn speed reading and all that and kind of stuff, and then you just keep going, and so Yeah, so that's deep.
Those obstructions, baby. I mean, that's what helped me understand how to turn that bad experience into something beautiful. I had eventually, because I couldn't look at my paint doing everything else in the world but painting.
Yeah.
So I went and I became a snowboard instructor. I didn't want to be in the city anywhere near this person. And what else did I do? I taught at a children's camp. I got to do everything I love to do with kids. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I was doing outdoor adventure.
Uh-huh.
Oh, it was fantastic. Out in nature all the time, being cooped up inside all the time. And just, life became so open when what I had my whole ego image set on was no longer available. And it was all ego. Like the idea of becoming the best face and body painter, was definitely ego. So I ended up, because of health reasons, becoming fascinated by yoga. It was such an incredible liberation for me physically. And then I ended up doing my yoga teacher training, and that was, wow. Blew the lid off of everything, and there was never any going back since then. Extraordinary. The training behind the yoga being not just the physical, like the positions, which we call asanas, but there's so much behind the science of yoga. These people for thousands of years have been truly investigating what goes on in the mind and what goes on in the emotions. And they've got it figured out. And it just blew my mind that there was an actual path that one could follow and get actual results from. And I can't recommend it enough. I mean,
which, if you were to recommend a particular kind of yoga, is there a particular tradition that you would recommend? Because there's a lot of stuff out there calling itself yoga.
Yeah, that's okay. This gets a little tricky, because what I recommend one do is not about what makes sense on paper. Like when you write out your pros and your cons, like I was taught to do in order to make a decision, because it's so mind-based.
Yeah.
And I made a lot of decisions in my life that were mind-based like that went against what I wanted to do in my heart, because I thought I was being smart.
Yeah.
And they all blew up in my face. But were they wrong? No, because they got me to where I am now. If I hadn't had those experiences, I wouldn't have become the person I am today.
Right.
So I would suggest that there is no right or wrong choice ever in any direction. But if you wanted to, ask my opinion on what yoga I love, I mean, Miranda Squires, my yoga teacher, is phenomenal. She is amazing. She spent 17 years in India. And then she went to the west coast of Canada and discovered the work by Charles Berner called mind clearing. And she incorporates into her program what they call an enlightenment intensive. And the enlightenment intensive was created by Charles Berner using one of his techniques called dyading. And if there's any, like we call it the yoga of communication. And it's so related to Ehret because it's all about clearing, removing obstructions. So in a really simple exercise where two people sit down across from each other at the same distance and height with no distractions, they learn how to get really in touch with what's really going on for them and communicate that. And the other person learns how to listen. It's not a conversation. I'm not telling you about my stuff to get your opinion on it. You are not allowed to comment on anything I say. You are not allowed to flick your eyebrow up. You're not allowed to shake your head. You are not allowed to react. That alone is a lost art. So these intensives, we do 12 dyads a day, and we're not allowed to talk the rest of the retreat. It's intense. And so we do, 4 years of therapy in 3 days. And
wow.
I mean, this kind of technique is, not many people have heard of it. I don't know why. It's everybody I talk to who's ever done it. Okay, that's an exaggeration. Not every single person can sit down and speak their truth and be comfortable with that.
Right.
That takes time. And if the person doesn't feel safe for whatever reason, they're not going to want to be there. I mean, getting in touch with what's really true for one that's a warrior.
Yeah.
So not everybody's ready, but if somebody's ready,
yeah,
I recommend dieting. It's an incredible technique to get to the heart of what's going on. That's what saved me today. I woke up like in pain all over the place. I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And I reached out to the international diet community, had 3 diets done, and then I was like, oh my God, I love life. Everything's fine.
So there's an online community where you can do it through the video chat?
Yeah, thank God. Yeah, I used to do it with my teacher, and we would host people at her center, the Lotus Center in St. John's, Newfoundland. Beautiful downtown St. John's, Newfoundland. Highly recommend it. But thank God when I moved, I didn't know how I was going to get my diets. So she told me that there was an international community, and I reached out, and I'm becoming friends with lots of these amazing folks. Yeah, it's extraordinary. It's just an incredible tool. Out of all of the tools I've ever learned, that's possibly, I want to say, if it's not number one, it's really close. Really close.
Yeah.
I've done a tremendous amount of investigation into human psychology, and yeah, it's extraordinary.
Is that the one that you said is kind of like, that sounds like Sedona method? Just the idea of it, or
in Sedona, you're getting in touch with what you're really feeling. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the trick, right? Like, so another person that I like to follow, they explain our emotions as kind of in a range. So we have, like, say, a 10 on one end, and we have like a 0 on the other end where we're not feeling anything. And most of us kind of, how do I say it? We're reacting, from one to another without really any control over it.
Right.
And when we're sitting down in a diet situation and it's our turn to speak, we decide how fully do we want to express what we're feeling. Ramp it up a notch. We can go all the way up to a 10 and just scream and get it all out, or whatever. It's still a safe situation. Or we can sit there and not say anything and see what that feels like.
Yeah.
We can talk about being angry and not actually sound angry and see what that feels like, how far we get. And it blows my mind how literally just expressing, it's such an overused word these days, the word expression, to actually express what we're feeling without judgment, to just with curiosity, where this anger takes us, where, like, it's absolutely fascinating, right? It's such a key. These emotions that our society tends to label as negative,
right?
Like hate is just there because a person loves something so much. It's just another end of the same thing. These emotions, when we deny them, we are literally denying part of ourselves, which means we can never really truly be fully integrated, fully whole. We can't be all we really are. We are not accepting truth. We are not accepting part of ourselves.
And in fear, because when you say like the hate, I see more fear as opposed to the opposite of love. It's like there's the deep fear there, and fear of what is a question for each person. But yeah, that's deep. That sounds like the way I feel when we have when we're playing some of the more kind of progressive jazz, avant-garde, free jazz, which is very expressive and very creative. That's like that experience for me, where I come out of that like, because I might have just I did something. I was touched, which usually sometimes when I play and I do certain things, I won't think that other people necessarily get it, but there was this performance I did several months ago, and it's in a small, it's kind of a small room where the audience is real close to the musicians, and we were totally just improvising, and I was getting into one of my real emotional, because sometimes I can kind of like scream and cry through the trombone, and it does this effect. And I was kind of bringing some old stuff out, and there was a couple people in the audience that started crying, and that almost made me like, because he was at the end, this one gentleman was just like, man, he's like, thank you, man, and he's like crying. I'm like, whoa, and
wow, like you just hit on such a main thing, which is when we have the courage to express ourselves authentically. It's a very vulnerable thing to do, especially when we don't know if the space is safe. But when we have the courage to do that, all I have ever seen happen is that we inspire other people to do the same.
Right. Yeah.
Instead of running around trying to be perfect like I used to in my designer heels, it's no. The more I'm full of mud, and the more I talk about the kids' puke I had to clean up, and like the more real I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank God, right?
Right.
There's a person now instead of some ego image.
Yeah. That's it. That's transitioning into your true self, letting go of the obstruction and the fear. The fear is obstruction, and that's just a key. And I've noticed it's a key on this path that I'm on, the mucus-free path and the artist path. A lot of these things are defined by that element, of being fearless and just doing whatever it is and expressing yourself freely and doing things. Because it's one of those things. Even with me, if I look on YouTube, there's because everybody is always going to be somebody saying something negative, and when you put yourself out here, then people, they find things, they start trying to analyze you and say, oh, that looks funny, or you're this and that, and someone always has something to say about my hair or my, they're like, or what I'm wearing, and like, why are you dressed like that? I ignore it. Because I'm just like
black, so I can have dreads and dress like you, are you kidding?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's what it's like. That's what you would want, huh? That's what they're saying. It's like, and my thing is just, I'm who I am. Being real by myself. Now, there's a pedagogical decisions that I make sometimes when I'm articulating certain things. I'm careful about how I say it, not because I'm scared or I'm trying to, like, I don't want to hear. It's, I want people to understand the information. If I start talking in certain ways, I know that all of a sudden you turn off like a bunch of people, and I'm not scared to turn them off. I just don't want to, because that's not my mission. My goal isn't to turn everybody off and just say what I want. It's to try to help people understand some things, And
you're clear on what your mission is and what you want to do, and therefore you're clear on who your audience is, and that helps you determine how you're going to communicate with them. That's the only way it can go and be successful.
Yeah.
And if you're only really going to care what people think and what they say if you're not clear on that. And often I find what's so interesting about criticism, and it happens all the time with me when I criticize something. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that's just what I'm afraid of. That's just what they're afraid of.
Right.
Their fear.
Yeah.
Me a whole nother way of looking at the situation and how to turn it around. So. Yeah.
It's an interesting, constructive criticism. It's like, the constructive criticism, because that's an art. That's an art of life. The art of criticism, constructive criticism versus, and as an educator, that's, you have to do that, because that's part of the job is you want to say, okay, well, I see what you're trying to do here, but maybe let's, have you thought about this? You should think about it this way, and when writing, grading papers and things can be an interesting task of that type of energy. And but yeah, it's definitely an art to that, because I'm not a fan of this thing that's going around with I don't know if I pinpoint a particular community or group of people, but it seems like definitely in some of the new agey kind of communities and stuff, if you want to use the terminology, but there's this phrase, don't judge. It's like, don't judge, don't be judgmental. And it's like, I don't like that kind of thing, because now you're just scared of something. It's like, we can't have a meaningful dialogue and conversation that's real without saying, okay, well, this is how I feel about it. And then, okay, well, you disagree. Okay, well, let me hear your argument. Okay, well, cool. I see what you're saying, but I don't, this is how I feel. That's civil. That should be fine, but people get so sensitive about these things.
Yeah, they are. They're just walking around in this state of reaction, like we mentioned when we first started talking. And I really don't think it's necessarily their fault, but it's just, there is so little emotional and mental intelligence in our society, the way that it's constructed right now.
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't expect truth from other people anymore. And it's freed me up immensely. It's been really liberating. Liberating. Yeah, I mean, they're all just running around doing the best they can. Poor things are stuck in constant reaction mode, and it's, what am I going to do? Stir it all up and then leave and not give them any support? It's
right. It sounds like what I used to do years ago. As I would come in and sort of blow people's minds and just break all of their stuff, and then see, okay, here's a book, and then I'd be gone.
Yeah.
Now if you're trying to put yourself back together, now here's your book, And but then over the years, like I said, it became a calling of, well, let's put this information in a way that doesn't scare people away, and if they're interested in it, they can check it out. But
thank you.
But
great job. You got me.
And so with the yoga now, do you have a particular studio, or do you use someone else's studio and schedule times, or how do you do your yoga instruction?
Again, it's really, my life is extremely versatile. I don't like to get too attached to invested, I think it's a better word, in one thing.
Yeah.
Right now, I feel very called to travel and to work with certain things like the Earthships, for example, and teach yoga. And the yoga, the way that I do it is I tend to try to embody it. And if people ask me about it wherever I go, I'll start sharing with them what could be a practice for them. Or a studio might reach out and ask me to teach there. So I might be like one of the teachers on their roster. So I also will sometimes, if I want to teach my own classes, but I want to do it in my own certain space or setting, will find an appropriate place. Then have my own classes there. So it's not really like a studio that I've designed and built from scratch, but at least it's an appropriate space that I can utilize depending on wherever in the world I am.
Yeah.
And my teacher, God love her, when she travels, she would often ask me to kind of hold the fort for her while she was gone for certain classes. So that was always a real honor, because I just love being in her space. It's worked long and hard to make it really, really special. It's really simple, but really special. So yeah, all kinds of different ways that I teach, but I'm not interested in owning or running a studio at the moment. I do love the idea of there being a studio in this village.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, definitely. Most definitely. Yeah.
But when we own something, it takes our time. So I like to be really, really sure that that's where my time is needed.
Right.
And sometimes, we can get a little too caught up in business. So
yeah. I've been studying more of the, own nothing, control everything type of Even though, the control everything, that might turn some people off. But it's an idea of where you're controlling who you are, your space, your personhood, and you're not claiming ownership of anything. You might be a custodian of it, or a trustee of it, but you don't have to own it and do ownership.
I like to think it's just kind of coming through me. I mean, I adore working on one-on-one, especially because then I can really just intuitively pull things out that otherwise I wouldn't always be able to.
Right.
It's always nice when I get to go to a person's home or they come to mine or that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. I mean, even a class of 30 or 40 people at one time, there's an energy there where everyone has come to, the intention is health. The intention is wellness.
Mm-hmm.
That intention times 30 or 40 people is an incredible thing to be in the middle of.
Yeah.
It's very inspiring. Nobody has to be doing perfect poses.
Right.
They're there. They arrived. They're on the mat.
Yeah.
That's it. They put the time in, right?
Yeah.
Just like dyad. Nobody puts time and energy into actually being with their feelings or being with what's going on in their life. And once you put the time there, all that needs to happen, the rest will unfold as it's meant to.
Yes, most definitely. Well, this has been a pleasure and a privilege talking with you. Really enjoyed this. And I want to, again, let everybody know Dylan is going to be giving a presentation at the 2nd annual Arnold Ehret Day celebration on July 27th. He's going to be talking about sustainable living, Earthships, Biotecture, and revealing some of our vision for an Ehret village in the future. And so really excited to have her. And if you don't have your ticket yet for the Ehret Day celebration, jump on it now. I've extended the early bird ticket pricing, so you can jump on that, get that before we raise the price. And get your plane tickets going and your drive, rent your car and all that stuff. Get it all ready, because this is worth it. This is going to be worth the trip. So Dylan, thank you so much.
Oh no, thank you, Professor Spira. It's been an honor, an absolute honor. I am such a fan of the courage it takes for you to do what you do and all the time and energy behind it. And I feel very lucky that you're in this world. And thank you for helping us celebrate Ehret, giving us an opportunity to actually connect with each other in person, one of the most powerful things we can ever do. So thank you. Take care.
All right. And so everybody out there, I want to thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Mucus-free Life podcast, and definitely tell a friend to tell a friend, share this video, get this information out there, do whatever you can do to just share the love. That's all we're trying to do. I mean, we talk about the removal of obstruction to get to a point where the love can just flow, and we got to share that energy, that vibration. That's what we're here to do. So thank you so much, and until next time, peace, love, and breath.
We are mucus-free. We are mucus. We are mucus-free. We are mucus-free. We are mucus-free.